Right, so we can talk away.
Morning, Kay.
Morning, Joe.
Thank you very much for coming along today. I suppose the purpose of our conversation today is for you to tell us, in your own words, your experience, with your husband's chronic illness.
Right.
With his stroke 10 years ago, I understand it happened.
That's right.
So if you wouldn't mind sharing with us some of your thoughts and experiences and what you've learned over the years.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I suppose if I go back to the very beginning, on the 29th of May 2006, Pat went out to play a game of golf, and he didn't come home until the 31st of August, 3 months later. I would say, yes, I was contacted to say he had been brought to the hospital, and I travelled up then. He was taken by car. Unfortunately, he didn't go by ambulance. And again, I'm not knowing anything about strokes, I didn't put pressure on when we were in E&E to have him admitted straight away. And I think a bit of time was lost, possibly. And so when he did get in, he didn't have the clot bursting injection. Sorry. Now, it was pretty new, I think, at the time, and maybe it was that, or that we were gone too late. We were too late before we got in, But we stayed with him for the few hours. And I suppose, speaking for myself, I knew nothing about strokes, neither did Pat. And I actually thought it would pass. I thought that would pass. So he had scans that night. And then the following day, I went home early in the morning, and I went back up again the following day, and he was in a room. And then I realised, when I saw the situation, that the paralysis had set in on his right side. His mouth was drooped a bit. His speech was a bit slurred, as it had been the evening before as well. And first thing I noticed was, I was married, at that stage we were married 39 years, and I had never seen Pat cry. And Pat was crying, and I really didn't know how to handle it. And the nurse came in and she explained that that was very normal as part of a stroke. And so I often say that, and it has left him with that certain emotion still. He can become emotional about something he's watching or something he hears, but we know about that now. And I visited the hospital every day for all those days. He had 6 weeks in COH, and where he availed of all the physio he could get, and they were fantastic to him. And then he was transferred to St Finbarr's for further rehabilitation and further physio. And again, he never missed out. He never missed out on availing of it.
Can I bring you back to when you were in A&E initially, in the first few hours, maybe the first few days?
Right.
How did you find the interaction with the staff and the various staff members? Your interaction with them? My
interaction with them, I was so lost, I suppose, but they were great to explain to me that the geriatrician came to, Michael O'Connor came, and he was wonderful as well as the nurses. He was really to explain everything to me. And I noticed he used to take Pat's hand and he'd say, a grip, do my grip, and there was a little bit of a grip, And they were at all times very helpful. The eating, I helped him with eating, cut up his food for him. He would have had, toilet could have been a few accidents, that not realising that you don't get out on time, and all in all, in the hospital, they were, in both places now, I have to say, they were wonderful. They were really wonderful. I was dreading coming home. I was dreading the coming home. Would I be able to cope? And because it was all so new to me. But again, Mr. O'Connor was very anxious that he would come home and get settled in as soon as we could.
Sure.
So we adapted the house. No, we didn't have to adapt the house. Sorry, we adapted the bathroom. He was on a wheelchair at that stage, and I didn't realise that there was nothing wrong with his hand. It was the muscle mass back here was the problem, and it took me a while to realise that. So that was August going into September, and he vowed that he would cut his Christmas dinner no matter how he did it, you know, so that showed us the determination he had, you know, which was great. We kept up physiotherapy. We were allowed back to St Finbarr's for quite a while, and then we heard of this German clinic in Cove where we attended, and they brought him a long way. I have to say now, they brought him a long way, to the point that they said, we're not going to take your money anymore, Pat. You have achieved what you've achieved, and it had plateaued at that stage. Things had plateaued, but we were going for a year and a half afterwards, you know. And then they had suggested about driving, and he said driving, and they said yes. On assessment, they felt he was mentally, like, his speech was perfect, his swallow was perfect, his intellect was perfect. So they felt if he had been a driver, which he was, as you know, he travelled the country through his profession, and so Michael O'Callaghan took him on, well, I can't think, was it Michael? It doesn't matter, I'll think of the name afterwards, O'Callaghan, and took him over. He was very nervous going out that day. When he was driving out, he called to the house for him, and he put him into the car, and I suppose he had dual controls, and going out the road, there was a refuse truck on the road, and Pat said, what's that doing there? He couldn't dream or think of the idea of overtaking, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
how did you feel about him going out?
I was anxious for him, but I was happy that this man was professional. You mean
Sure.
with the trainee driver? Yeah, I was happy for him that he would achieve it. So then we had to go to Cork a number of times. He'd meet us at the Silver Springs Hotel, and he'd take him away and brought him through city traffic and areas he had never been in Cork. He used to be exhausted when he come back because it was unfamiliar territory
Sure.
to him, you know.
Yeah.
But the determination, I have to say this all the time, you know, your own determination is very important. And the patient's determination is very important, really. With regard to myself, it was a huge change. Your life never is the same again after a stroke. Your life as we knew it as a married couple is never the same. So there are a lot of changes and adaptations to be made, you know. But we worked through it. I suppose I feel 10 years on, I might move to this for a moment, I feel 10 years on, people will still ask for the patient, and the carers can be forgotten.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about that, because you brought this up with me before.
I did years ago at a social function.
That's right, yeah. And I was quite taken aback with that.
Yeah, and I felt awful after saying it to you.
No,
Yeah. I do think the carer can be forgotten, because of course their life has changed too. They have to think, they don't get up in the morning and say, oh, I'll go away now today and I'll play golf, if you're a golfer or whatever. You have to see that their food is ready for them, and you have to make sure that all is in order, showering wise and all that. But nowadays I don't have to shower him. I mean, he's doing that all himself now. At the beginning I had to help with these toilet situations and with the shower, but that's all in the past now. But you could feel sorry for yourself, you know. Yes. I could feel sorry for myself, really. And I'm talking to, often I talk to others who are in the same situation as I was, and they would say, nobody thinks of the carer. So, and I remember when he was down in the Fermoy hospital for a little while or something, they said, who cares for the carer? I'm sorry for honing in so much on the carer, but I think the carer can be forgotten.
No, I want you to hone in on it.
You want to hone in on it,
I think it's very important.
Because I'm afraid of sounding selfish.
No.
Yeah, because you have to work, your marriage changes in the sense you're the one nearly in control, and everything falls back on you, on the carer, you know.
So did you feel an increased sense of responsibility?
I did really and truly. And nowadays, even as good as he is, as good as Pat is, which is great, he has moments of anxiety as well too. Recently we were going for his driver's license, and we couldn't get near the office, and when we got in to do that, we realised we had filled in he had all the other things, but he hadn't the application form filled in, and we had gone upstairs and up in a lift, and there was no toilet, and that creates its own stress. Yes, stress, and it's times like that Pat will always say, I don't know what I'd do but for you, you know, the carer is appreciated in times, well, I'm not saying only in times like that, but so I'm trying to think now, what else would have been of importance at that time.
I know you've had a long procession of people coming up to you saying, Pat, you're great.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And even at Mass or at church or things like that, they would, they'd say to me after saw him at Mass, and sure, he's great. And of course I say he is, which he is. But he's different. It's different for us now, because we'll be 50 years married next year. So it's just great to live to see that, and to see our grandchildren, and he's been able to interact with them, and he's great on the phone and things like that. That has been great, you know.
From his kind of medical care point of view, what do you see as important?
As important? Well, certainly I have to say the role of the GP is vitally important, and our GP is just wonderful.
You don't have to be saying this.
I know I don't, because you're there, but I want to say it. I just want to say it. The GP, when he has bloods taken, he's informed as to the results connected with his warfarin, and he never has to wonder when he has a test done, because the GP comes back and will inform him. So, and that he loves to know exactly where he stands, and of course so do I. And at the very beginning, the district nurse called a number of times and was very, very helpful, and she brought in the occupational therapist, having assessed the house and where to put the appropriate grab rails, and an important thing is get rid of mats in a house. Get rid of mats because have no hazard that can cause a trip or a slip.
Yeah.
And he mastered the driving very well. He's very minor adaptations in the car. He just drives with a left accelerator and a spinner on the wheel, and he wouldn't take on too long a journey now maybe, or he wouldn't go into the city to avoid situation, but the ordinary course of events he can drive, which is a big help. And he has his social life in the sense losing the golf was a big drawback to both of us, because he went one way and I went the other, and we then met, and he had his social life and I had my social life. So that was a big change, I must say that, but thankfully he was able to go back after a few months and play his cards, and card games, which he loves. He has a few cards, goes and joined the men's club, and at home now I get him to do more than he used to do, because I realise he could do it. And I suppose being a man, he could get complacent and let it be done for him.
Sure, yeah.
You know, that can happen in a person. So, all in all, now the medical profession have come up trumps, thankfully, and I know I can contact them. Both the GP or there's a cardiologist as well involved, and the geriatrician. They have certainly put me right in a lot of things, you know.
When it comes to taking responsibility for his care, do you feel responsible, for example, for him to make sure he takes his tablets?
No, I have nothing to do with his tablets. From the word go, because there was nothing wrong with his intellect. I said, Pat, you look after your own tablets. He orders them, he collects them. He times it. His phone goes off at 6 o'clock religiously in the evening for his warfarin, and he never misses. He's very, very, very particular on that, and I wouldn't know what he's on. Maybe I should, but there's always a list anyway. If I had to present it anywhere, you know, I make him responsible for that, really. And let's see now what other responsibilities, you know, and even going for the paper. Simple things like going for the paper. I used to be going off to get the paper, so now he goes for a long time, and he'd come back and say, and you know, I met so and so and I met so and so, and sure, that's what it's about. That's what it's all about, really, to keep up the social interaction.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, so.
Has it affected your social life?
I suppose I feel the need to be around more. I don't like to leave him too long on his own. Deep down I would have an anxiety that what if he tripped? And but he has an alarm system, which is not the best at wearing. So we must make sure if I'm not there that he wears it, because you know an hour could make an awful difference.
Sure.
2 hours less could make an awful difference. That wearing the aids is very important. You know.
Sure.
And simple thing now, like a person's bed. The beds nowadays are inclined to be quite high, but it so happened that the bed, we sleep in separate rooms for each comfort, but his bed is such that he can sit on it and put on his shoes and socks and dress himself. And whereas when we stay with somebody, maybe that the bed is higher, that's an awful drawback. Unless there's a seat, you know, unless there's a chair with arms, preferably, a chair with arms, you know. But no, he can dress himself thankfully and do all that. And interesting, when he was in St. Finbarr's, and they presented him with a basin of water to shave, and he said, "What's this for?" And they said, "That's to shave." And he said, "Sure." He said, "Look at my hand. And how do I do the shaving cream and shave?" And they said, "You just squeeze the cream onto the side of the basin, and you work that way." And it so happened that Pat shaved with his left hand, so I never had to do that, which was a bonus, really. Sure. That was certainly a bonus. Little things and it's little things that matter. Yeah. It's little things that add up to frustration.
Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes I don't answer all the time because it can be a lot of calling sometimes. Yeah. Because of course he's in his chair and I'm in the other kitchen. I'm in the kitchen getting a meal, and I said, "Oh no, not again." But they're the minor things. They can be cut out. They're just the minor things that can get on a person's nerves if you're doing something. Sure, It's the little things that can get on your nerves, really. You cope with the major things. Major things are always dealt with.
Sure.
And no, thankfully we've got 10 years. Now at the very beginning, if someone told me, you know, you'll be doing this for at least 10 years and more, I would say, "Oh, I'll never be able to do this, I'll never be able to cope." You do. You adjust and you work through the changes.
Sure.
Yeah, as long as you don't expect things to be back the way they were.
Sure.
Yeah.
Supporting you in those early days, like, did you feel you were recognised as a carer, or was this just kind of put on you?
I suppose it was put on me, really. And the children came home, they're far flung, and they would have come home as they could cope with it, not cope as much as had time off, because they're all busy and have families and everything. So basically you're back to yourself, you know, you're back to, it's back to the carer, really and truly. Sure. And so, and of course there's now a carer association, but that's a different thing, I know. Sure. That's a different thing, you know. But they're the silent carers too.
Absolutely, yeah.
They're the silent carers. So.
What effect do you think this had on your children? I know they're all adults now, but they're still the kids.
I suppose I never asked them, because if you're a coper, you're probably allowed to go. No, they're very good and they're in touch, and we go on holiday. We've been to visit them I've taken Pat to Australia, New Zealand and America and all that, with the assistance, airport assistance. And but I often worry that if anything happened to me, if I predecease him, because he's not material for a nursing home. He came, but you'd work around that. That could be worked around as well too. You'd get help in. Yeah, I think so too. And none of the family would be in a position. They're not nearby. They wouldn't be, and won't be nearby. So as long as we can keep him out of nursing homes, if I keep saying if I predecease him, that's why I had him responsible for his own medication and everything like that. You know. So the more responsible. If everything is, if his intellect and everything is as it is, he has to take on responsibilities too.
Yes.
He has to take on responsibilities too. So I'm beginning to let go things I used to do. I'm beginning to let go to small things I used to do, so that yeah, because there's plenty he's able. I mean, he's able to pull up the clothes on his bed in the morning, and he does. He's very tidy and hanging up his clothes. And all those things help. He's very tidy, I must say. Yeah.
So does that cause conflict?
No, not at all. I might come back and straighten the bed myself afterwards,
Yeah.
but at least it's done. At least
Yeah.
he knows he can do it. He knows he can do it. Yeah. No, it doesn't cause conflict. No, we're lucky we've had a good marriage always, and it's challenges like that, I suppose, put it to the test.
Sure.
You know, so please God, we'll see it out to the end anyway. Yeah.
Well, it seems to me that you want him to be as independent
I
as
do.
he possibly can be.
I do,
Yeah.
for his own sake and for my sake, but for his own sake particularly.
Yes.
It must be it has to be rewarding for him when he achieves something. You know, he's only the left hand really. He's a bit. He can hold the knife, but I know he tends to cut his food with his fork.
Sure.
I know. I said, wouldn't you use your knife? But it must be bothersome to him.
Sure.
That if he can avoid it, he would. Yeah, if in a restaurant, I would always ask for a sharp knife, you know, to make sure he can comfortably do it.
Sure.
And I noticed he'll always put out his right hand to shake hands. Always. He's never put out the left. I suppose and I admire him for that he wants to hold on to what was normal, you know.
Yes.
Yeah. It does. And he drives over to Mass himself and whatever, we go together, but he goes himself. And yeah, all that is good really, that we're lucky. I know we're lucky. There are much worse situations than mine, but I suppose that's why I honed in so much on the care. Not to forget the carer is a big thing.
Yes.
I feel strongly about that,
Yes.
as I am one and have been one, you know, all along. So I probably labouring the point, but I do feel that.
No, I think that's absolutely important. I think we do forget.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're inclined to concentrate on the patient,
Yes.
but both of you are the patient.
Yeah,
I
well,
think
that's
what
true.
you're saying.
That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, we're both in it together.
Exactly.
We're both in it together. So I mean, I would try to make it as easy as possible for him, and also for the children. I don't complain. I try not to. I don't think I complain, but they're too far away to be listening to any little stories like that. You know, so if I can cope at all, I will. While I can cope, I certainly will. You know.
Have you ever felt that various healthcare professionals haven't communicated effectively with you, that they're inclined to communicate with Pat and not with you, or have you ever felt kind of left out of that?
I suppose I've allowed that because wanting him to be fully aware of everything.
Yes.
And I feel that if there was something I should know, my GP would ring, would call me and keep me informed on the position, you know. I do really, so that I'm not worried. I'm not worried about that.